Hello and welcome. This video is based on chapter 27 of my book Rise of Man. Please check it out, link in the description. So, today I want to talk about MGTOW and the detached personality. What is the detached personality? Why is it relevant to MGTOW? And what do I have to say about it? The MGTOW community has grown immensely since I first began my journey and went my own way. And as more and more people flooded into the community, I couldn't help but notice the overbearing anger and sadness rising each year. The grief cycle goes as follows: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Those stages may intertwine, come back at a later time, and sadly, some people will never reach the last stage of acceptance. I also went through the grief cycle, and I fully understand what it is like. It can be excruciatingly hard, especially when walking through the stage of depression. And I wrote this chapter of Rise of Man in hope of reaching some men and helping them through the process of going through each stage. With that said, I sincerely hope that my personal experience may serve as a small beacon for those who need it. The detached personality is something I have personally experienced, and writing this chapter was a healing experience for me. Before I go into the specifics of the detached personality, I want to share a personal experience with all of you. As a kid, I was incredibly naive, disturbingly innocent, and deeply sensitive. I can clearly remember that my aspirations and dreams were always filling my whole being with an intense but fragile feeling of hope, and I could peacefully bask in that emotion for long periods of time. To me, it was impossible to lose when good intentions were present. At least, that is how I used to view the world when I was a kid. And my mother once told me that she always feared for my well-being when I was young, because I was utterly clueless about the evil in the world, and I could not detect malicious intentions. Clearly, this had to change when I faced higher levels of adversity. Starting in my first year of high school, I suffered from being bullied, and even if it wasn't constant nor heavy, it was just enough to call it slight bullying. In my second year of high school, I started martial arts class, and I was really into it. I became fitter, more confident, stronger, and I scared off the bullies. They taunted me, and I responded with a full-powered punch on the shoulder of one of the guys. Being who I was, I still did not want to hurt anyone, so I chose to hit the shoulder instead of the face. Anyway, the guy felt the pain for at least a week, and he and his partner stopped harassing me after this face-off. As I said earlier, the bullying was slight, and I was not a primary target. I had other friends, and I was good in sports, which is probably why I was not targeted a lot. But the aftertaste of bullying transformed into distrust of others, and I slowly became more stoic, more closed off. Sometime after that, my parents got a divorce, and my father left home. He disappeared completely without saying much, and we never saw him again. He also never contacted us back. The only news that we got from him was of his death when he committed suicide a few years later. And I did not understand the situation back then, but now that I am an adult, it is easier to understand the reason that would compel a man to choose to leave and never come back. Who knows? Perhaps he wanted to get out of the role of provider. My mother was a stay-at-home mom, and he had to support her financially, plus half a dozen kids, and he did so for more than 20 years. I can't even begin to imagine myself doing that. It would kill, destroy, and terminate all my dreams. To me, adopting such a life-sapping role when everything can be taken away from you on the whim of a woman is completely crazy. For my father, all those 20+ years of self-sacrifice were thrown away into the dumpster because of a divorce. This must have been a hit so powerful that he chose to forsake his family altogether, and in the end, it was too much, and he took his own life. Anyway, at the time I was clueless as to why he had left, and I reacted by closing myself even more. I am not being rejected. I reject everyone, would be a good way to summarize my reaction. And I stopped caring about almost everything. The fact that we were half a dozen kids with a single mother and that we faced financial issues was also a thing. To protect myself, to face a situation that was too hard for my fragile self, I desensitized myself. I closed off like a turtle retreating into its shell, and I became detached. I saw my new indifference building up block by block, and I began to see it as a form of strength. Things did not affect me as they did before, and I was proud of it. I threw my naivety out of the window, and I did gain a lot by doing so. It was a new starting point that made me grow in a lot of areas. However, it was unavoidable that at some point, things started to get dull. Everything became grey, tasteless, and I lost the flame that once lived fiercely inside of me. One day the void became too dark, and I painfully forced myself to change. I made a lot of efforts to reaccept detachment, and I can tell you that it was a very, very gruesome process that lasted for many years. When I found out about MGTOW and the red pill, I couldn't help but be mind blown. It resonated with the part of me that had been detached for so long, and I was drawn to it. After all, when someone develops a detached personality, it is for a good reason. It is a self-defense mechanism that compels you to be careful and not to trust others easily. Under a healthier environment, those predispositions would not have developed, and the result would have been different. The detached personality can manifest itself when someone is profoundly hurt. It can be physical violence or some form of abuse, rejection from a parent or peers, by being taken advantage of, by betrayal, or any other adverse experiences that may happen in a moment of vulnerability. That is especially true in childhood, since we are more sensitive at that age, and as a result, we may harbor distrust, and we won't get too close to others. It is essentially winning the game by not playing it. In comparison to all the people who lose the game and are left at the bottom of the pit, you are a winner. When you look at it this way, opting out is a valid option. Opting out from relationship, from friendship, and from society decreases the amount of exposure to threat and betrayal. Being hurt over and over forces us to become overly detached, and our ability to connect with others physically, mentally, and emotionally is compromised. Too much detachment also affects our capacity for empathy. By being distant, by protecting our ego, we also become less responsive to the emotional pain of others. When we harbor negative feelings and we've come to assume that other people are deceptive, threatening, or just generally abusive, our relationship ends up being barren. Safeguarding our ego in this way has many downsides. It can lead us to ignore golden opportunities in the path of our optimal well-being. And I am specific here. Being detached is better than being hurt over and over, but it is not in any way optimal. And then there is MGTOW. Doesn't what I explained about the detached personality seems to fit with the experiences of most MGTOW? Isn't the lack of trust that the MGTOW community places into the system in blue pill men and women pretty similar to the way that detachment work? And don't misunderstand, I am not saying that MGTOW's distrust is misplaced. On the contrary, it is 100% rational and justified. The current society is so bad for men, with its gynocentric laws and culture, that men do not have enough incentives to be drawn into a healthy and balanced world. Being rejected for who and what they are, a considerable number of men became detached, and went MGTOW. A distrust of society was born because it denies the nature of man, and too many boys saw their father being swindled away in an unfair divorce, so they stopped trusting women as a result. Being punished for being a man led to the creation of many detached personalities, which in turn created the MGTOW movement. At least, that should be true for a portion of the people who are MGTOW. However, the detached personality is not optimal for one's well-being. What I propose is to reopen yourself and accept once more attachment. This may seem like a leap of faith, and I believe that achieving a personal equilibrium necessitates that we relearn how to accurately assess who deserves our trust and how much trust at that. In all our relationships, we need to discern what constitutes the optimal combination of involvement and detachment. And I thoroughly acknowledge that there are way too many risks associated with building long-term relationships with women. It isn't worth it, period, and I do not recommend it. This may seem like a dead end, but it is not. Blue pill men who are not aware of the red pill knowledge are everywhere, and I do not personally know of a single person in my entourage that has swallowed the red pill. As you can imagine, this can be the source of a deep and profound sense of isolation. If that was not enough, when I learned about concepts such as male disposability, women's hypergamy, and the way in which other men are so very gynocentric, I felt betrayed by the world, betrayed by my friends and families. After my discovery of the red pill, I chose to distance myself from friends and family, and I faced a period of bitter but self-inflicted loneliness. The rage was burning inside of me, and a profound sense of sadness immediately followed the anger. I realized that human nature cannot be changed, and that it is hopeless to struggle, and this was utterly depressing. It was a harsh journey of constant reading and absorbing content about MGTOW and the red pill, but I finally came up with two conclusions. The first one is that even if the world cannot and will never change, I can change myself, and that is the only thing that actually matters. And the second is that I can forgive, accept, and even develop friendship and care for some blue pill men and a few select women. Essentially, it is possible, and I would even say that it is preferable, to regain this sense of camaraderie and kinship. Human connection is a precious thing, and we should not throw our entourage out of the window unless people actively harm our self-interest. Of course, if a community is not beneficial to you and goes as far as bringing you harm, you should ditch them without hesitation. For me, being appreciative and accepting attachment while remaining fiercely independent is a real source of freedom and fulfillment. While keeping hatred in our heart and being indifferent is understandable, we should remember that most people are lost sheep, and even if we cannot guide them, we can rediscover our empathy and show them the way by being a positive example in their lives. I think that this is a genuine sense of freedom that comes after thoroughly digesting the red pill, and at the very least, it was my way of getting over the hardships of the detached personality. We all have a spark in ourselves, and sometimes it can be almost extinguished. However, we still have the potential to reach out for it and make it burn intensely once more. I don't date anymore, and I even have a sex doll. As such, I could be considered a MGTOW monk. Even so, I manage to keep a satisfying social life. I often do outdoor activities, I train 5 days a week, and most important of all, I write. Writing brings me a sense of fulfillment greater than anything else, and it was through pain and boredom that I discovered my passion for writing. I believe that adversity is necessary for growth, and sometimes it is possible to find a hidden jewel during the darkest times. Don't get discouraged, and keep looking forward. Most, if not all your friends, are probably blue pill, but even so, I still recommend hanging out with them. Having friends will boost your morale, decrease your stress, and they can be a source of counseling when you are troubled. Your family, if they are not completely dysfunctional, can do the same thing. To reach a good balance, our thinking shouldn't be unemotional, and our emotions shouldn't be unreasonable. And with this I will end this video. Thank you for watching and see you next time. My first book is now available for purchases on Amazon.com. It is a book titled Rise of Man, and it is about MGTOW and the Red Pill. I deeply appreciate any purchase of my book. Feel free to leave a comment on Amazon, as it really helps with the algorithm to boost my visibility. I find this message to be very important, and Rise of Man is available for free on my website manhoodshittyshit.com, so please feel free to read it here. I also write fictions of the fantastic medieval type. My style is very dark and gruesome, and of course there are some elements of the Red Pill in the interaction between characters. It will be available for free read this summer.